We say this all the time about how dangerous this job really is, and unfortunately tonight, our worst nightmares, have come to be.
The NOPD grieving the loss of one of their own.
We're proud of our officers. Our officers demonstrated great restraint, great courage, and great professionalism, even during a time of great mourning.
Officer Marcus McNeil killed overnight while patrolling New Orleans East.
Why would somebody kill an innocent police officer? They're the one that's going to help you.
And as police are searching for answers, many expressing their condolences to the family McNeil left behind. The news at 5 starts right now.
And tonight, as a city grieves, Officer Marcus McNeil is being described as everything the community could want in a police officer. Good evening to you. I'm Sean Kreisman.
And I'm Sela Kim. Thank you for joining us. Right now, as the community mourns together here, investigators are piecing together what happened early this morning that took the life of a husband, father, son, and a friend. So
tonight, we have live team coverage. First, we begin with Casey Ferran. She's live there at the NOPD headquarters with more on this. Casey.
Yeah, Sean, right now the chief says that his investigators are combing through evidence, trying to interview witnesses and also looking through video to determine exactly what happened this morning. Now, right now, friends and family are also mourning the loss of this 3-year 7th District officer who a friend says just wanted to serve his community and provide for his family.
It was terrible. Overall, good guy. He didn't deserve that.
Mike Hammond lost a high school buddy and a close friend Friday.
When you lose somebody like this is the kind of impact that it has on people. People hurt, and it's a tough pill to swallow.
Police say Officer Marcus McNeil and 3 other officers were patrolling in New Orleans East when they noticed something suspicious, got out of their cars and pursued 30-year-old Darren Bridges.
What we know is that there was an encounter, there was a struggle. At some point, that subject fired at our officer. We had officers to return fire, at least one, perhaps more, to return fire, striking that subject who fled.
Police say Bridges hid in an apartment and surrendered several hours later. Officer McNeil, a husband and father, died at the hospital.
This guy might go to jail, But at the end of the day, if his family see fit, they could go see him. They can go see him, and at the end of the day, Brittany won't ever be able to see him again. His 2 kids won't ever be able to see him again.
He says friends call McNeil Milk Dud, a person he described as funny and soft-hearted. He says he was surprised when McNeil told him he wanted to become an officer.
When he told me, I asked him why did he want to be a police officer, because he has a degree, and the first thing came out of his mouth was, I got to take care of my family. And this job will enable me to do so, and I will also be able to help people in the process.
And to the man accused of killing Officer McNeil,
I want him to be blessed, but I want him to understand what he did. I want him to understand that he took somebody extremely great guy, a family man.
Now, police say the suspect, Darren Bridges, is still in the hospital. He was shot several times. Meanwhile, the chief says at this point they have not taken any formal statements from the 3 other officers that were involved in this incident, but that will be a part of their internal investigation. Reporting live, I'm Casey Ferran. Back to you.
All right, Casey, thank you. A neighbor nearby says she and her son were in the garage when they heard gunshots overnight. The 2 hid behind a car for safety. Then the woman says she saw someone run into a building and shoot towards someone else, but she says she did not know it was an officer who was injured. The woman describes what she heard as witnessed during the shooting overnight.
When I first heard the gunshots, it was pow, pow, pow. And then after that, it just went louder, like pow, 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 pow. And then I immediately grabbed my son and dropped to the ground because it was too loud.
Now, thankfully, she and her son were not injured during that shooting, but it brought back painful memories. The woman tells us her 5-year-old son's father was also killed in a gun battle.
And we are learning tonight more about Officer McNeil. He joined the New Orleans Police Department in 2014 after leaving an accounting career. He is a 2010 graduate of Dillard University and a graduate of St. Aug High School. The husband and father of 2 was nicknamed Milk Dud by his fellow officers and neighbors in the 7th District. Now, in an an interview with the NOPD, McNeil said the nickname started when a person he was arresting tried to agitate him by calling him Milk Dud, like the chocolate candy, and it stuck. And Officer McNeil is the 5th New Orleans police officer to die in the line of duty in New Orleans since 2013. Last year, Natasha Hunter was killed in a traffic incident after being struck by a car. In 2015, Officer Vernell Brown was also killed in a traffic-related accident. And that same year, McNeil's fellow St. Aug graduate, Officer Darrell Holloway, was allegedly shot and killed by a suspect he was transporting. And back in 2013, Officer Rodney Thomas was killed by a hit-and-run driver on the high-rise in New Orleans East.
Condolences for the New Orleans Police Department and Officer McNeil's family and friends are pouring in from around the country. House Majority Whip and Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise, also a victim of gun violence, tweeted this: "Our whole community mourns the tragic loss of Officer McNeil, and we are praying for his loved ones." Dr. Walter Kimbrough, president of McNeil's alma mater, Dillard University, tweeted this: "Just learned Officer McNeil was a 2010 graduate of Dillard, asking all DU students, faculty, staff, and alums to be in prayer for his family," end quote. And the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office says, "With great sadness, we mourn the loss of a brother officer of NOPD early this morning. We stand with our brothers and sisters in the NOPD in this difficult time as they grieve the loss of a defender of our community and a member of our Blue family," end quote. Now, the man accused of shooting and killing Officer McNeil is facing a capital murder charge. And we've learned that the suspect has a long criminal history and was out on parole at the time.
WDSU's Jennifer Crockett is live at University Medical Center with the latest. Jennifer.
Darren Bridges was brought here after surrendering to SWAT negotiators early this morning. As Casey said a little bit ago, he's been shot at least one time. We also know that he has an extensive criminal history, and despite many arrests and 3 felony convictions, Bridges has only served 3 years in jail. 30-year-old New Orleans resident Darren Bridges will face first-degree murder charges once he's released from the hospital. But it's not the first time he will appear in court.
In running his rap sheet, we see that he first was involved in the criminal court for felony charges way back in 2004. One
of those early arrests on cocaine charges could have sent him to jail for 30 years, but that didn't happen.
When you see this steady progression, you see narcotics and violence and guns. That's the chemistry that leads to serious criminal conduct, and that's exactly what we saw here.
By the time Leon Canizero was elected as district attorney in Orleans Parish, Bridges was arrested again on possession of firearms by a felon. That conviction earned Bridges 6.5 years in jail, but the state parole board released him after 3, putting him back on the streets in 2015.
The fact of the matter is, one of the criminal court judges gave him 6 years in jail, which he would still be there had he not been paroled by the state. Not by the criminal district court, the state paroled him.
I understand the challenges that are faced by the Department of Corrections, but I have, I have advocated that if we're going to err, let's err on the side of caution and let's err on the side of public safety, because we don't want tragedies like this occurring in our city.
And Canizero went on to tell me that there are 2 things he thinks sets repeat offenders up to become dangerous threats to public safety. One is not taking those lesser charges or misdemeanors seriously, and the criminal justice system handing out suspended sentences instead of jail time. And the other is granting parole without there being some kind of assistance for people in place to deal with life after prison. Reporting live at UMC, I'm Jennifer Crockett, WDSU News.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you. Our team coverage of the shooting death of NOPD officer Marcus McNeil continues right now on the WDSU app. We will have more on this story later on in our newscast. Well, the troubled Sewerage and Water Board has a new man in charge tonight. Today, the board of directors voted to appoint Bruce Adams as interim general superintendent. Now, he will be in charge of administration matters. Adams was hired by the Sewerage and Water Board in 2015 as deputy general superintendent. He is a New Orleans native and graduate of Tulane University and an engineer by profession, and worked on a number of projects pre-Katrina and post-storm recovery.
Commitment 2017. We're just a little more than 24 hours away from knowing who will lead New Orleans and other southeast Louisiana areas for the next 4 years. WDSU reporter Tammy Eswick live in Carrollton, where campaigns are hitting the ground on this last full day of campaigning. Tammy.
Yeah, hitting the ground is definitely the word for it. Right here behind me on South Carrollton near Xavier University, you can see many campaign signs here on the neutral ground. A lot of campaigns trying to make that last minute push, but so are election officials. They're trying to make their last minute pushes to make sure everything is in place for tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. when the polls open. Now, we were there with them. We started off our morning by going to the warehouse that houses a lot of those voting machines that voters use. We understand 761 of those machines left the Chef Mentor Highway warehouse where they are housed to go out to different locations, including schools and a personal residence. Now, some of the big races include the race for mayor, coroner, and city council. Polls open tomorrow at 7 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. And we do understand about 14,000 people have already submitted ballots for early voting. Now, there are 9 polling locations that have changed in Orleans Parish. For a list of those locations, head over to our WDSU app. Live from South Carrollton, Tammy Eswick for WDSU News.
Tammy, thank you. WDSU will have complete coverage on all of the races on Saturday. Our Commitment 2017 coverage beginning Saturday night on WDSU News at 5. It will continue throughout the evening. And new at 5, former New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin, acting as his own attorney, has asked a federal judge to toss out his corruption conviction.
He filed the motion on Wednesday, citing a recent Supreme Court decision making it more difficult to convict public officials of bribery. Nagin was convicted of bribery, honest services wire fraud, conspiracy to commit bribery, and money laundering, and filing false tax returns in 2014. He is currently serving a 10-year sentence at a federal prison in Texarkana.
President Donald Trump has announced he is putting Iran on notice. A full explanation on the major announcement from Washington is ahead.
And another summer-like day to end the week, tying or breaking records in some areas when a significant cool down is coming to the area. Coming up.
And as we go to break, here's a live look outside through our Skycam on this Friday. You're watching WDSU News at 5.